So thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Pamunkey Regional Library Zoom event. This is our virtual family engagement resource fair. So today, in honor of Family Engagement Month, we have collaborated with the Center for Family Involvement at VCU to go ahead and present this program. So today we have Renée Soniat from the Center for Family Involvement at VCU. She is the Central VA Regional Network Coordinator for CFI with the Partnership for People with Disabilities at VCU. So Renée, I'd like to welcome you and the rest of your group here. So I'm going to go ahead and let you take over the Zoom, and please introduce yourself and the rest of your group who's going to be working with us today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate. We just really appreciate all the work you've done so much to help us be able to share this event with everyone. So thank you for all of your hard work with that. I'm joined by several of my amazing colleagues today. So I'm really excited that they're all here with me. This is definitely a group effort. I have Patrice Beard, Moretta Copeland, Lisa Richard, and Valerie Abbott. We'll be doing a virtual story time after our presentation. So we are all really excited to share this with you today. So as we get started, if you could please open up your camera, even if you are watching the recording of this after the fact, we would love for you to just open up the camera on your smartphone and grab this form to sign in, please. It's like a 30-second form. All you have to do is put in your first name, your last name, and your email address. And we'll also ask you if you would like to be added to our distribution list for future events and activities that are happening. You certainly do not have to add yourself to that list, but we really would love your email, even if it's just for this, for your participating in this one and only event, so that we can send a survey to you and get your feedback on what you liked and what you didn't like, so we can make the next one better. Okay. Okay, so as Kate mentioned, my name is Renée Soniat, and I am the Regional Network Coordinator for the Family to Family Network of Virginia, which is under the Center for Family Involvement. We have lots of names where we are, so it can get a tiny bit confusing, or a lot confusing, as it was for me when I first was introduced to this whole entity. But the Center for Family Involvement is under the Partnership for People with Disabilities at VCU, which is under the School of Education. But actually, we just earned a great distinction recently to become a research center under the university. So we will be moving out from under the School of Education, directly under the university, and we'll still partner with the School of Ed a whole lot, I'm sure. We'll continue work under the School of Ed. So Renée? As you can, oh, yes?
Renée? I just wanted to let you know that somebody in the chat is saying that QR code is asking for permission. So
is it?
Maybe that's something.
Okay, well, you know what I'll do? Thank you for that feedback, and I apologize. What I'll do is we will, yeah, I'll put a link in the chat when the next person comes up to talk. I'll grab a link to put in the chat, and maybe that'll work better. So I apologize for that. And thank you, Patrice, for letting me know. As you can see from this graphic, the Center for Family Involvement has a lot of different programs that happen. The Family to Family Network of Virginia is just one. And all of my colleagues that are here with me today, we all work under at the Family to Family Network. But we all also work on various other programs as well. both with the Center for Family Involvement, or CFI as we call it, and also at the Partnership for People with Disabilities. So I won't read these all to you, but you can see that there are lots of things happening. And there are a lot of collaborations that take place with other organizations and agencies around the state. So the CFI, Center for Family Involvement, we provide direct support to families and indirect support to families. And so that can look many different ways. We offer one-to-one peer support, information and referral, training and materials, and technical assistance. So sometimes we're working directly with families and supporting them and offering resources. And there are many instances where we might be doing indirect support. For instance, the Family Engagement Network is one program that we work with in collaboration with the Virginia Department of Education. And so we work to develop materials for families who have children in special education that are put out by Virginia Department of Ed. So that's just one example of how we might provide indirect support. The Family to Family Network has regional offices. So as I mentioned, I happen to be the regional network coordinator for Central Virginia. There are 5 others who do what I do around the state. Lisa Richard will be joining us soon. She is the regional network coordinator for the Southwest region of Virginia. And then we have others in Northern Virginia, Tidewater, Hampton Roads, and Blue Ridge. So regional network coordinators, like myself, we oversee the network for that particular region. We work to identify and recruit family navigators. Sometimes that means we meet somebody at a conference who comes up to our table, you know, if we have a vendor table, which is often the case. Well, in regular times it is, maybe not so much in the past year and a half, but that's usually a really good way for us to meet people who are interested, because they'll come up and ask questions, and we'll just make those connections, and they'll tell us what they're involved in, whether it's with Down Syndrome Association or Autism Society or whatever other agencies. There are so many, of course, out there that people will just start sharing about what they do and how connected they are in their own communities. And that's usually like a little flag that goes up, and we're able to recognize those people who are really well connected, and will then recruit them to be a family navigator. Family navigators are often parents or family members of a person with a disability. Sometimes it's a self-advocate. It might be a grandparent. Most often it's a mom. We do have a few dads that are family navigators, but it's always a family member of a person with a disability, or as I said, sorry, I was distracted. I just let somebody in. So when we match people, we'll get people who call into the helpline to request assistance, looking for resources, or maybe they just want emotional support. Maybe they just want to connect with another parent who understands what it means to have a child with a disability, and they just want to connect with another person, because that can be a really isolating experience. Or they just need help with navigating a system, waivers, or the school system, for instance. So we will match that parent calling into our helpline, or our email helpline, and we'll make the best match that we can with a family navigator based on, it might be what the disability is. It might be a geographic match for someone, like, for instance, occasionally I'll get phone calls from people who are new to the area. Maybe they've just moved from Northern Virginia to a county in Central Virginia. And in that case, that would of course be, you know, I would want to make the best match that I could based on where the community that person lives in. So there are different ways that we can match people. And that said, we can also match based on, like, if a child has a rare illness, for example, it might be really tough to match that parent within one region with another parent. So it might be that we reach out to someone in another region and make the match that way. Sometimes we can even tap into our national organization, Parent to Parent USA, and make a match in another state. If it's a really rare medical condition or diagnosis, we can match even within, you know, across states. So our network is wide. We collect data. It's a free service. And so the way we're able to provide that service is through grant funding. We have some major funders like Virginia Department of Education, Virginia Department of Health, Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. So all of those funders, and there are others, but those funders will ask us for data. So we do collect some data, and we try to get as much as we can, but it is completely optional. If a parent really does not want to share information, I mean, we put it in a secure database, but if a parent does not want to share that, it is certainly not a requirement. So let's see. I was trying to advance and I think I'm frozen here or something. There we go. Okay. There are lots of ways that a family navigator can help a family. And I think I got a little ahead of myself and probably shared a lot of this information already. But yeah, so one-to-one support, emotional support, support and planning for meetings, things like that, all things that we do on the regular basis. So some frequent requests for support that we get are navigating community services, partnering with professionals, and transitioning to adult life. So now I'm going to turn it over to Moretta Copeland. Moretta is one of our cultural brokers, and she does an amazing job, and I'm so happy that she's here with us today. And I will go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Moretta.
Good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon. I am a cultural broker with the Center for Family Involvement, just as Renee said. The cultural brokering program with the Center for Family Involvement actually started back in 2009. And so I was one of the first cultural brokers that started with this particular initiative. And currently we have 4 cultural brokers. We typically have between 4 and 5. And as you can see, we have cultural brokers for the Asian community, African American, which is a community that I serve, Latinx or Latino community, as well as for the refugee community. And so all of our work looks a little bit different. Well, first, let me tell you a little bit about our role as cultural brokers. Some of you may not even have heard of the term cultural broker. But basically, a cultural broker is someone who acts as a go-between 2 different community groups. The community that the cultural broker is serving, as well as what would be considered the more dominant community, white community. So like if you have a family who may be, so in our role, we may work directly, like Renee mentioned, that with the Center for Family Involvement, a lot of the work that we do is either indirect or direct work. And so a lot of times as cultural brokers, we are working directly with families, but also indirectly, where we're working with maybe providers who are also working with that family. Of course, we have the family's permission. So we may be kind of working with that family, as well as a provider who may not be as familiar with that particular community and that particular culture. So the primary role of a cultural broker, we provide a lot of outreach to families as well as organizations and different groups. We work across the state of Virginia. Some of our cultural brokers are bilingual, of course, for the Latino, Latinx community, as well as the Asian community and the refugee community. Our cultural broker for the political asylum and refugee community, she does work with a lot of Arabic speaking families. Now, I'm a cultural broker to the African American community, but that does not mean, excuse me, guys. I'm sorry for the background noise. Bear with me one moment. That is my daughter. I'm the mother of two young adults. My daughter happens to have a developmental disability. Just like Renee said earlier, we're all family members of people with some kind of disability or self-advocates. Like I mentioned before, we do work across the state of Virginia. Another part of our role is that we may support our regional network coordinators who may get a referral or who may be working with a family and they realize there may be some cultural barriers or it could be a language barrier, and they may refer the family to us, or either we're kind of, just work as a team in supporting that particular family. A lot of the times in our roles, whether it be regional network coordinators, but certainly as cultural brokers, we do provide a lot of emotional support. That is a huge part of our job as cultural brokers, as well as regional network coordinators. So some of the emotional support could be centered around, I may have a family who, feels that their child is being treated unfairly, or it may be that the parent has experienced some type of, what they perceive to be some kind of microaggression or discriminated, that their child could be, they feel that their child is being discriminated against, as well as the other issues that come with having a child with a disability. And I think that's all that I had. And now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Patrice Beard, who is going to speak about our, liaisons who work with other specific disabilities.
Thanks, Moretta. So I am the mental health liaison. And so briefly, what a liaison is just as we all are, as Moretta explained, we are a go-between, if you will, between the community and the Center for Family Involvement and families. We also give one-on-one support, emotional support to families. We also collaborate with Center for Family Involvement with trainings. We also collaborate with, I may collaborate with Moretta on a case with mental health having to do with a family that Moretta is helping in the African American community. I may assist, Renee might be helping a family that's having some problems at school, but there's a mental health component. And Renee would reach out to me and I would offer that support, whether it be talking to Renee or Moretta so they can then share it with the family they're talking to, or I would work directly with the family. What's cool about being a liaison, there are certain instances, as Moretta said, we have an Asian cultural broker, a refugee cultural broker, a Latinx cultural broker, rural cultural broker that you'll be hearing from Lisa. In those instances, I might not be that person that offers support to that person, right? Because I don't know that culture or I don't know that language. So my job then would be to offer that support and training to my coworker, so then they can go and help that family better. So it's really, I think the Center for Family Involvement is pretty awesome because ultimately the number one goal is the family. And what can we do for that family? And if that means one person's helping, if that means 3 people are helping, we do very well at collaboration and helping families. The other liaisons, other than mental health, autism, deaf and hard of hearing, visual impairment, military, rural outreach, media specialists, and aging families. So another thing I think is important for my role as mental health liaison as well is I try to stay very active in that mental health community. I keep myself updated with trainings. I give presentations. I serve on specific mental health boards as all the rest of our staff do. And that's what helps us stay connected with the community so we can bring it back to the Center for Family Involvement and share it with each other and give that best support, emotional support that we can for families. So that's all I have. And I am going to pass it over to Lisa Richard, who is our Rural Outreach Specialist.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Patrice. And I'd like to thank my colleagues that spoke ahead of me. We all work, as Patrice said, very collaboratively together. And so I've worked with all these wonderful women, and it's been a pleasure. And we really enjoy collaboration at the Center for Family Involvement and assisting families in any way. As you can see from what Moretta and Patrice said and Renee, we cover all different types of families in all types of areas. And the area that I work in specifically, I live in Southwest Virginia, so I'm all the way in Bristol, Virginia. But I cover some of the most rural areas in Virginia, in the Commonwealth. And the majority of what I do is here in Southwest. But even if you don't live in a rural area, the possibility exists that you could move to one, or that you have friends or family that live in rural areas. And getting services, if you have a child with a disability, or if you yourself are living with disability, can be quite different in rural areas. And there's so many great things about rural, so I always try and present the upside as well. I mean, it's beautiful here and a lot of really close communities, and a lot of times family lives close by. But some of the difficulties or challenges that you can face if you live in a rural area is either a lack of access to resources or traveling really significant distances to get the services that you need or the medical help that you need, especially those families that have children with complex medical health care needs. And so it is a really specific way to look at how you are going to assist your child if you live in a rural area, and where do you find those resources, and how do you reach out to the people that can possibly help you. And so when there are people in very rural parts of the state, and the majority of Virginia is rural, most of the people live in urban areas, but most of Virginia is just filled with all these small communities. You have Southwest, you have the Northern Neck, excuse me, you have the Eastern Shore, and lots of rural pockets around Charlottesville. And so these families do find it a little bit more challenging to get the things that they need for their child, or if they are also living with a disability as themselves. So some of the things that I try to do to help, and certainly anybody is, as with all of us, you're able to email us, reach out to us, and we would love to help you because that's what we do. I have a Twitter that I'm really active, which is really funny because I am old, but I really love my Twitter, and I love to tweet all things rural. And then I'm also very involved in telehealth, because telehealth is really a way that people that live in rural communities can access the medical care that they need and other resources. Also on the Center for Family Involvement, our Facebook page, I have something called the Rural Pearl. And I put out something every week about those things that are positive and wonderful about living in rural areas, and also things that could possibly help you if you're looking for resources. I'm also about to start a Rural Pearl, it's hard to say, podcast, and I'm going to be talking and interviewing caregivers in Virginia that are living in rural areas, and talking about some of the great things about it and some of the challenges that they have as well. And then we also have a rural rat card. And that just kind of explains the Center for Family Involvement and what we do. and some of the stuff that I do in rural areas of Virginia. And so that's pretty much it for me, but would love if anybody had any questions to reach out to me and either, email me or give us a call. And of course, you can see this slide, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I was really excited that Lisa could be here. There are many areas of Central Virginia that are rural, so including in Hanover and to the south of Richmond and Petersburg. So thank you, Lisa and Moretta and Patrice. Thank you all so much for joining in. And as you can see, we do have lots of people on our team with different expertise. Feel free to take a second to jot down an email if you would like. And then in just a moment, we will be transitioning over to the next portion. Let's see. Oh, here is our website and social media. So if you would like to jot that down, many of you may be watching this on a recording, so feel free to pause and write these down. And thank you all so much for taking a little time out of your day to join us and watch and see what we have to offer at the Center for Family Involvement. We love working with families, and please don't hesitate to reach out if we can help you and your family. So at that, I am going to stop this for a moment, and we have a very special guest joining us today. Valerie Abbott is actually one of our colleagues at the Center for Family Involvement, but also she has a wonderful new adventure happening. Valerie is an author, and she has a new book called Patapillow. And Patapillow was just recently recognized as a bronze medal winner of the 15th annual 2021 Moonbeam Children's Book Awards. So as you can imagine, all of her colleagues are just super excited for her. And we're really excited, Valerie, that you're here today to share your book with the families in Central Virginia. So I am going to open up your book.
Thank you all so much. I am so happy to be here. And one of the things that I think I'm most proud of in my work with CFI is their encouragement of family storytelling. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge the stories that we all have, that when we share them for the benefit of ourselves, they also benefit others. So I'm thrilled to be here today as a Virginia mom who published a book, and it is about our family's experience with late onset hearing loss. And it's called Patapillow, and I'm just going to jump in. I'm going to start by reading the introduction because I do feel that that gives kind of the foundation for what happened in our family and sets the stage for the story. In the United States, it is estimated that as many as 3 in 1,000 babies are born deaf or hard of hearing. Late onset or progressive hearing loss can also develop later on during early childhood. Children with undiagnosed or untreated hearing loss often struggle with important developmental milestones. Many of these children are at risk of falling behind in language acquisition, cognitive development, social and emotional well-being, and success in the classroom. Our daughter Bridgette passed her newborn hearing screen at the hospital when she was born. At first, she could hear. Then it changed. We didn't notice. Her hearing loss was not detected until her verbal skills became significantly delayed, and we slowly began to admit that something wasn't right. Patapillow is based on the true story of how our family discovered and came to terms with the mystery of Bridgette's hearing loss. As told through the lens of her older sister, Mary Claire. In the years that followed her diagnosis, we met many families who had responded to their child's disability just as we had, shocked, worried, and struggling. We each searched for answers, advice, information, and support. This book was written with the intention of being one of many resources, but more importantly, it was written as a gift of hope for families who are just beginning their journey. Because next to love, hope is the most powerful fuel of the human spirit. And with that, we'll jump in. I thought I knew everything about my little sister Bridgette. After all, she's little. I knew her favorite song. I knew her best friend's name. I even knew how much she hated broccoli. But there were things I didn't know about her, like why she did weird things. She never answered the door when the doorbell rang. She didn't notice when a phone would ring. And she always made me repeat myself. That was annoying. Sometimes she just ignored me. That made me mad. But then there was the strangest thing of all. One day, Bridgette and I were playing on our favorite tree. Look, she said, a patapillow. I looked around, but I didn't see anything. What are you talking about? I asked. What is a patapillow? She pointed to a branch on the tree. I still didn't see the patapillow. Bridgette moved closer. She pointed at a chubby green creature the size of her finger. Patapillow, she said again. I rolled my eyes. That is not a patapillow. Eventually, my parents caught on to her weird behavior and silly words. I don't know when they noticed, but once they did, they wouldn't stop talking about it. Suddenly, Dad was on his phone all the time. Mom was always on the computer. They started talking to people about the same things I had seen. What do you think it could be? Asked Grandma. We're not sure, said Dad. One day, my parents took my sister to see a special doctor. It wasn't our regular doctor, it was a new one. No kids in the waiting room either, mostly grown-ups and grandparents. Dad, I said. Yes, honey, Dad replied. Are these people sick? I asked. No, honey, Dad answered. Is Bridgette sick? I asked. No, honey, I don't think she's sick, Dad answered. Then what are we doing here? I asked. Just then, a nurse called us into the doctor's office. Mom held Bridgette's hand. She could never follow directions anyway. The doctor asked my parents a lot of questions. Too many questions. He looked into my sister's ears. You don't have ladybugs in there, do you? The doctor joked. Ladybugs? I think I know what might be going on, he said. I'd like you to meet Dr. Anna. She's an audiologist. What's that? I asked. An audiologist is someone who tests hearing and who helps people who may not hear well, the doctor told us. Dr. Anna asked Bridgette if she would like to play a game. This game wasn't like the fun kind we have at home or at school. It was a listening game. Bridgette wanted to play. It looked pretty boring to me. Bridgette sat on Mom's lap in a little metal room with a window and toys inside. I watched as Dr. Anna placed long tubes into Bridgette's ears. Hey, are you hurting her? I asked. No, these are soft rubber tubes. They don't hurt. They're like headphones, Dr. Anna explained. Dr. Anna came out and closed the door to the little metal room. She sat in a chair near the window and waved. She spoke to Bridgette through a microphone. Listen for the beep, she said. I slumped back in my chair. This is going to take forever, I grumbled. When the game was over, Dr. Anna sat down with me and my parents. The inside of Bridgette's ears don't work like yours and mine. The test shows that she needs something to help make sounds louder and clearer to help her hear better. Bridgette needs hearing aids. What? I shouted. What are you talking about? She doesn't need hearing aids. My sister can hear just fine. Dad wrapped his arm around me. Mom looked sad. No, she doesn't hear like you and me, Dr. Anna said. Bridgette can hear some things, but she can't hear other important sounds. I know it might be hard to believe, but it's true. She then showed us a hearing aid and explained each of the different parts. The microphone picks up sound. Inside, the amplifier makes the sound louder. The speaker sends the louder sound into the ear canal through a small tube and an ear mold, which fit inside Bridgette's ear. The battery provides power to the hearing aid. Next, Dr. Anna squirted blue goo into my sister's ears and said, "This blue stuff will harden into the shape of Bridgette's ear canal, so her hearing aid molds will fit perfectly." Bridgette closed her eyes and made a funny face. She said the goo felt squishy. "What if that gooey stuff gets stuck in there?" I said. "It won't," Dr. Anna said. When the blue goo hardened, Dr. Anna gently pulled the molds out of her ears. It looked like the frosting on a cupcake. "Bridgette, did that hurt?" I asked. She shook her head back and forth. I wondered if she understood what I said. Dr. Anna kneeled close to my sister and smiled. "Bridgette, hearing aids can be any color in the rainbow. Which color would you like?" Bridgette thought about it and pointed to her dress. "Pink it will be," said Dr. Anna. "I will order them today." The ride home from the doctor's office took forever. My sister fell asleep. I was so mad. Why hadn't she told me she couldn't hear me? I knew that listening game must be wrong. I knew I had to test her myself as soon as we got home. "Bridgette, come play with me," I said, walking her into my room. "Can you make a block tower? Here, use these." Bridgette ignored me. "Here, blocks, make a tower," I said, pointing to the bucket of blocks. "What?" Bridgette asked. "Ugh, let me show you," I said, flipping the bucket upside down. She was so annoying. 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. Bridgette nodded and started to build her own block tower. I slowly moved towards my toy chest. I had to find something to prove Dr. Anna and her test were wrong. I had to prove that my sister could hear just fine and that she was just plain weird. Aha! I whispered. I turned around. I stood behind my sister, and then ring-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Bridgette didn't move. She didn't look up. She didn't turn around. She didn't stop at all. She just kept building her block tower. A few weeks later, Bridgette's hearing aids were ready. We all went back to see Dr. Anna, the audiologist. Bridgette wiggled in the chair. Dr. Anna put the new pink hearing aids in and around her ears. They fit perfectly. "These are so pretty. How do they feel?" Dr. Anna asked. My sister's eyes grew big and wide. "I hear you!" She said, "I hear you!" We all laughed. Mom cried a little bit. Dr. Anna made some adjustments to the hearing aids, and then she said we could go home. Bridgette was very excited. She ran down the hall and straight out the door. She wanted to show everyone her new hearing aids. But then Bridgette stopped. She looked around. She grabbed Dad's leg. "What is that?" Bridgette asked. She covered her ears. "What is what?" we asked. The noise! Stop the noise!" Bridgette began to cry. She grabbed at her ears and started to pull her hearing aids out. I looked around at the moving cars and trucks and people. I didn't hear anything strange. I just heard everyday things. It's all right, Mom said. These sounds are new to you. Don't be afraid. She smiled and picked up my little sister. We headed back to Dr. Anna's office. I thought I might see you back here, Dr. Anna said. Was it loud outside? Bridgette nodded her head. She freaked out, I said. Bridgette wiped tears from her eyes. Dr. Anna made a few more adjustments to the hearing aids. You are so brave. Keep wearing these every day. It will get easier. I'll see you again very soon. The next day at school, I walked my sister down the hall to her classroom. She squeezed my hand, so I squeezed it back. I felt a tickle in my stomach as we turned the corner. I wondered if anyone would notice her ears. What would her friends say? Wow, what are those? Wyatt asked, pointing his finger. Hearing aids, Bridgette replied. I can hear better now. Let me see, let me see. Her friends and her teacher gathered around smiling. I love them, Olivia announced. They are pink and beautiful. My sister let go of my hand and smiled at me. I smiled too. Things are a little different now. My sister wears her hearing aids every day. She also works with special helpers called therapists. Sometimes they ask me to help them. Bridgette doesn't annoy me as much anymore. Actually, she's kind of funny. She won't stop talking and trying new words. She talks to our neighbors when they ring the doorbell. She runs to answer the phone. She still says silly things sometimes, and that's okay. But you'll never guess the big new word she said yesterday. Ooh, butterfly.
Such a beautiful story, Valerie. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. Just beautiful.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, does anyone have any final words they would like to share? And if not, that is okay. Thank you again, Kate, so very much for hosting us and helping us to put this together, and your other colleagues at Mechanicsville Library who also assisted. I know Ashley worked on this too, and Verity. So thank you so much for all you've done to help promote our program.
Well, we would like to thank all of you for joining us today. This program is a direct result of a patron request. For those of you who don't know, there are patrons who just don't know where to go. So this was a direct request from a patron saying, hey, I need to know where to go for resources, and I think that would benefit other patrons in the community. So that's what this program is all about. It's making sure that our patrons are getting their needs met and making sure that the library can offer that information to them. So everybody who's joining us via the recording, please keep in mind that the Mechanicsville Branch Library has some goodie bags. These bags consist of information from numerous generous donations from many of the community groups throughout the state, really, that can provide you the support that you need for your family. So I think I've got like 75 bags worth. Definitely it's a first come, first serve, but go head out to the branch, pick up a bag. It'll give you tons of resources. And thank you again to all of you. And as soon as we can, we'll get the recording out there so that people can go ahead and know where to go and who to contact, and just to have the support and the information that they need. So thank you everyone for joining Pamunkey Regional Library's Zoom program for the virtual resource fair, and we hope to see you at another program soon.